Hello, this is the Evolution of Technology VCast by Jeffrey Dice at Azusa Pacific University. This is for EDUC 515 Educational Technology, and the professor is Jeff McKendricks. This is the Spring 1 of 2011 semester, and the date is March 28, 2011. Numbers, numbers, numbers. How are you supposed to keep track of all those numbers? What about addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and a multitude of other functions? If only there was a device to help us. But wait, there is. It's called the calculator. The calculator is a tool that most of us use nearly every day. But have you ever wondered what the first calculator looked like and how it was used? What about the many changes that the calculator undertook from the mid-20th century till today? How will calculators look and how will they be used in the future? During this VCast, we will explore the vast technology of the calculator. Are you ready to begin your journey? Calculators have actually been used since ancient times when the abacus was invented. The abacus was invented about 5,000 years ago in China. The abacus did not do the computing as today's calculators do, but was more of a counting device that was used to keep track of numbers. I bet you didn't realize that humans have used calculators for over 5,000 years. And then around 1620, William Gunter developed a logarithmic rule for multiplication and division using dividers, which was the forerunner of the slide rule. In 1874, the pinwheel calculator was invented. This was the first calculator capable of multiplication and division. And until the 1970s, many manufacturers based their machines on the design of the pinwheel calculator. In 1884, the comptometer was invented. This was the first key-driven calculator. And until 1975, electrically driven comptometers with automatic multiplication and division were manufactured. Then in the 1960s and 1970s, the calculator truly began to evolve into what it is today. In 1961, the first electronic desktop calculators were introduced. During the mid-1960s, the first all-transistor calculators were brought onto the market. These machines were quite large and cumbersome and cost about the same as a family car. Whoa, talk about a budget buster. Subsequently, in the late 1960s and early 1970s, handheld and battery-operated calculators were being developed by companies such as Texas Instruments, Sharp, Hewlett-Packard, and Canon. These manufacturers had reduced the size of the calculators so they would fit into a pocket, but the cost was still quite high. In 1972, the first scientific pocket calculator was invented by Hewlett-Packard. During the same period, liquid crystal devices or LCD displays began to be used on calculators. By the mid-1970s, mass producing had reduced the cost of calculators significantly. But many manufacturers quit producing calculators due to lack of profits. By 1978, the first solar-powered and credit card-sized calculators were introduced. So what was the motivation that led to the development of today's calculators? There are 7 milestones that led to what we now know as the calculator. They are portability, small size, replaceable batteries, increased functions, liquid crystal display, solar power, and cheapness. Each of these features played a key role in the evolution of the calculator. During the 1980s, calculators became so small that the calculator wristwatches became popular. By the early 1980s, it was common to find calculators for around $2 or $3. Today's calculators compute many more functions than just the 4 functions of their predecessors. During the late 1970s and early 1980s, a memory function was added, along with calculations for percent and square roots. During the 1980s, calculators began to look more like handheld computers than mere adding machines. By the end of the 1980s, scientific calculators became more common and affordable. These calculators introduced trigonometric functions such as sine and cosine, exponents, logarithmic functions, and scientific notation. Scientific calculators also had the capability of displaying fractions and their decimal equivalents. By the mid-1980s, the first graphing calculators were being developed. These calculators included all the functions of scientific calculators, but added more features. The primary difference was that these machines have larger LCD displays that are able to graphically display values on the coordinate plane. These calculators also included many functions for computing probability and statistics. Graphing calculators can also be used for matrices, complex numbers, and have much larger memory than scientific calculators. Throughout the 1990s, these calculators were still quite pricey, but in the present day they have become affordable, around $100 or less. The evolution of the cellular phone has also included the calculator. By the end of the 1990s, cellular phones began to add calculator utilities. In present day, all cell phones have calculators. iPhone and Android-based cell phones have many downloadable calculator applications, including scientific and graphing calculators. Some of these downloading graphing calculator apps include color displays. Well, what does the future of the calculator have in store for us? Only time will tell. Calculators will continue to evolve throughout our lifetime and beyond. One thing is certain, calculators are a tool that will be used for many years to come. I hope you've enjoyed this journey through the history of the calculator. Hopefully, you learned something new. References for this VCast are available on the written script.